and then dive in. So I just started recording for those who cannot attend live here. We are spanning a lot of time zones, from amazing people in Australia where it's something like 4 a.m. right now. So those good people are excused, of course. No, we have pretty much all time zones represented in this sprint. First, we're going to do a brief round of introduction of everybody who's on the call. They will introduce themselves briefly. Then I'll just do a brief introduction to the topic and to you, Paco. And then I'll hand over to you, and then we'll explore whatever rabbit holes that you and everybody else would like to explore when it comes to UI and UX. So that's my plan.
Okay, that's perfect. Let's see how I can help.
Absolutely, I'm sure you can inspire and support us in different ways in this hour here. So let's begin with a short round of introductions of everybody, let's see who would like to go first. Let's do it that way today. One of the ladies on the call, perhaps?
Hello,
Olga.
I can go first.
Absolutely, Olga.
Hi, my name is Olga Calvache. I'm a coach. I'm following the Educator for Life sprint as an, I'm not in any team. It's just looking all the process and seeing everything advances, and pretty proud of what the teams have come up to. And I'm pretty curious to see what Paco has for us today regarding the UX and UI. Yeah, that's me. I'm a coach, as I said. Yes.
Wonderful, and good to have you again, Olga.
Yes, I enjoyed yesterday. Yes, it was pretty good.
Absolutely, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next?
Hi, there's no volunteers, so let me jump in. Hi.
Hey, Justina.
Hello, Paco. Hello, Lars, and all the wonderful community. It's Justina speaking from Brussels, and I'll be short, brief this time. I'm calling from the Zen Masters group, where we are ideating a amazingly playful book for kids age 9+ on social emotional regulation, empowering them to become the Zen masters of their lives. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the tech information, because I'm simply a sister of a tech magnet, but I hope to follow my brother's footsteps very soon, thanks to the sprint. So thanks again, and I'm looking forward to the coming hour. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Justina.
Hello, everybody. Charlotte speaking. Greetings from Casablanca, Morocco.
Whoa, you made it.
Yeah, I made it. Woo! I just arrived yesterday, and today I had lots of meetings. So I represent the warm-up team, and actually we work on with the Educate for Life community on empowering economically women in rural villages in Morocco, and how to create them some economic opportunities through education and technology. And these women, usually they have been to school up to 12 years old, even if now they are way older. So I'm thinking about what kind of inclusive user interface we could propose to them, because at the end we want them to use the disruptive technology, but maybe they do not even have the basic knowledge to interact. Yeah, so looking forward to reading the presentation.
It's the optimal challenge to give Paco here. Yeah, perfect. We look forward to dive into that later. Thank you, Charlotte, and welcome to Morocco. Good to see you there. Yeah. Awesome. Who'd like to go next? Maybe MB? Mary Beth, can you hear me? I don't hear you, Mary Beth. Okay, so we could invite Cosmin. Hey, Cosmin.
Hi everybody. I'm Cosmin Alexandru from Bucharest, Romania. I'm part of an entrepreneurship university, and up to now we've been mainly focused on face-to-face interactions with our students in team sessions and workshops. And now we want to jump into the online part of entrepreneurial education, and we want to learn how to do that properly. Thank you very much for this hour.
Good to see you here, Cosmin.
Hi, Lars.
Hi. Let me just try again, Mary Beth, if you can hear me. MB, no, I'm not hearing you. Sorry, MB. But feel free to try later if you want to ask questions or if you get the audio to work then. So I'm going to give a brief introduction to Paco, who will introduce himself a bit more, because it's been a long time since I met with Paco, and Paco and I did work together quite a while ago, and Paco, all the time I've known him, has always been the champion of UI and UX and this world. So obviously, Paco's name was top of mind for me when I went through the list of topics that we all need to learn more about. And UI and UX for prototyping is very important to at least know a little bit about. So this was the best opportunity ever to reach out to Paco again, say, hey buddy, where are you? How are you doing? Let's talk UI and UX. Are you up for that? And Paco said, yeah, let's do this. And so my own preparation for this call has been to listen to a piece of music, actually, because I spent with my family a summer in Granada, and we had some memorable Albaicin nights, also some of them with Paco. So I listened to a piece of music. I'll share it after the call with everybody. It's called Albaicin Gypsy Quarters in Granada. I found it on an album by Gypsy Flamenco Kings, I think it's called, or something. A wonderful piece of music, very inspiring. And I needed to get myself in the creative mode for this session, and I am now. So I should have shared the music before the session, obviously, with all of you. Sorry for that, but so I've had many wonderful experiences meeting and working with Paco. So I'm here handing over to Paco to give us a little bit of an introduction to what is UI and UX, and how can that be useful for us as we are trying to prototype some of the ideas that each of us are working on to disrupt education, redefine education, make sure that we can be educated in whole new ways in the future. So Paco, my friend, over to you.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. Congratulations as well to all of you, because I know how challenging it is to be involved in a sprint. I have participated myself in one, and I know how difficult it is to combine your daily tasks with this, because usually you get so engaged that it's difficult to kind of escape from that. So congratulations, everyone.
Indeed.
And regarding UX, UI, I'll give you like a quick explanation of what I think they are. To me, a user interface is related to what the interactions points, regardless they are related to technology or not, but the interaction points you have or your solution has with the users, with your customers, users, the people you are working for. Because usually I think that I'm working for them. That's a kind of the mindset. The user experience is the experience even where when you are not touching, what you are not in contact with them. When your solution is involved in their lives, but it doesn't need to be those kind of touch points where they interact with. So I try to consider user experience as the hub, and usually I take like a service approach to understand the user experience, trying to learn how they met the solution, how they decided to, how they were attracted to it, how they decided to buy or to use it. All the different points, also even the relationship with the brand, which is with the company, which is as well important, because there is an emotional aspect there that is really important as well. So this is and you can consider as user experience everything. I usually say to the developers and engineers in the team that they are also part of this. I'm just kind of the evangelist or the kind of the watcher that I'm trying to get everything kind of sorted or at least under vigilance. But the thing is that we all, when we are delivering a product or a solution, we are providing part of that user experience. So it's nothing, to me, is not that related with design. The only thing is that designers seems to be like a more attracted to it, and also more kind of more able to step back and see the whole experience. Because usually, you know, product managers, developers are kind of more focused on different tasks along the way. So that's for me. And the user interface, which is something that I've been working on for a long time, is the interface. I have designing always digital products, and I'm really fan of product, industrial product, but I haven't produced anything related to that. So my specialty, it's more related with digital product design. In this case, I'd say that the interfaces are like the artifacts that keep the conversation with your user. Usually, I see the user interface as a conversation and a relationship with them. So I try to, there is like I usually say that you have to keep you need to decide the tone, but usually it needs to be a casual conversation if you want to keep a relation like a normal and a durable relationship. Apart from that, when it comes to prototyping, my advice in this part is try to be very focused on the problem first. Try to always think about the four primary questions: who, why, where, and how. And always being thinking on those questions. The scenario is really important. Keep thinking about how they are going to use your artifact, your solution is really important to me, because usually when we start designing a solution, you tend to think that you want to put your users in the most comfortable situation. But usually it doesn't happen that way. Usually they are under stress, or they are the reason they are using your solution is because it's urgent and they need to achieve their goals. So this is important as well. Keep thinking always about the personas and the problem itself. So think about personas. Probably you have done at this point in the sprint part of the zone of research. So I'd use it to create personas, to create user personas, which are kind of fictional characters who represent your users. To me, they are useful because you can avoid to very common issues that are being designing for yourself. Because if you don't empathize enough with the people you are designing for, probably you are going to come up with solutions that you think are well, but from your perspective. So it's very important to keep thinking always about your users. And personas are like a very quick. There is a lot of information on the internet about how to create a persona. It doesn't need to be very elaborated. You can do something quick, but it's important to keep thinking always about who is using your product and who are you designing for. And put them in the scenarios. You might try to imagine them how they are going to use the product, how they are going to use the interface, and what kind of issues and problems they can find to when interacting with your solution. As one of the questions, I think it was related to literacy and how the problems they could have interacting with any digital product, I guess, if I remember correctly. After that, regarding the prototype itself, I'd say that I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. My personal kind of approach is to start designing the single piece that you think is unique in your solution. That instead of designing the whole thing, the whole solution, like for example, if you're designing a video platform, try to not design the community around the content catalog. Try to start designing only the video player, and the main needs your users are going to have when playing a video. If you are designing a learning system, a learning management system, I would start from the lessons instead of starting from the whole catalog and how the students communicate with each other, things like that. Try to be very focused on that, on the main solution you are providing and the main value you are providing to your users. Another trick I learned recently from the person who redesigned the brand of OpenExo is trying to design like a cartographer, trying to design the things you know first, even if there are gaps in between, because by knowing what you know, by seeing what you know, it's easy to to see what you still don't know, to think about what you still don't know, and to find the gaps. This is important as well, to being able to find the gaps and to even just to acknowledging what you don't know is very important in design. And to me, is one of the questions that I enjoy and I engage the most. What I still need to know. More things related to that, tools. In my opinion, it needs to keep as simple as to be kept as simple as possible. try to sketch as much as you can, because in my case at least, it allows me to be very focused as well on the solution, instead of being navigating different alternatives that are cool designs that something is applying to whatever is the product I'm thinking I have to design. So try to sketch on your own as much as you can. One thing, prototyping is just a communication tool, and a tool that allows you to throw away so many things, so many ideas. It's just an exploratory tool. So don't get in love very quickly. Don't fall in love very quickly with your solutions. Try to at least provide 3 different solutions for the same problem, and compare them, and try to be like a very bold in some of them, very conservative in others. Different approaches in that way, because the good things of prototyping is that it's very cheap, and in my case it's very enjoyable because it's something it's like exploring. More things when it comes to digital tools as well, keep it as simple as possible. One thing I started doing like 5 or 4 years ago was to prototype by using PowerPoint or Google Slides. I love my design tools, and you know it. But I discovered that by using only squares, circles, arrows, and lines, allowed me to keep focus on the key aspects of my design, instead of start thinking about colors, things like that. So I could say that trying to use simple tools, it could be beneficial. And also, if you are not very familiar with design tools, it's something that you can use, and it's great. When you have to test it, you can use tools like InVision, Marvel, things like that. And my main advice in general is use it to communicate, not to sell the solution. Use it to communicate, to get feedback as soon as possible, test it, because that's the main purpose of the prototype. Test your idea, how useful the user thinking it can be, and also the emotional aspects you can see from what you are presenting. Rather than further than that, I'll repeat: be as specific as you can. Try to think about the data you need to, because usually interfaces are like a information, a way of moving information from a point to another. Not only that, but it is part of them. So try to be very clear about the information you really need, and which information you can get from other place, instead of asking the user, because asking for information is always annoying. And if not information for actions that you need them to do, try to be in that case as minimalistic as you can, because or find ways to motivate them to take those actions. That's like a very quick summary of what I think designing and prototyping is in general to me. Basically, a tool for communicating with your team, and especially with your users. So I'll be glad to answer questions that you have, more specific, and what kind of points you're trying to cover through these talks. through this talk. That's all.
Wonderful, Paco. It's just the beginning, I know that, but I made a lot of notes here. I think this was super, super useful already. So let's open up to questions from everybody on the call. Charlotte is asking, could we see some visual examples?
Of prototyping?
Of prototyping, I believe, yeah. From the education space, ideally.
But for my work, I don't know.
Maybe not from your work.
But I'll do a quick search and I'll share what.
Right.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes. I know there are a lot of guidelines for user interface and so on, but is there any specific one that you want to highlight or to recommend for us a good source reading to keep in mind? Because there are a lot of details that we have to keep in mind. So can you recommend us something to read regarding of those details that we have to keep in mind and never forget?
Yeah, well, a good book I love is the Psychology of Everyday Things, and that for me, I think this is the oldest one I know about design in general and user. That one. Lars, thank you. And this is the best one and the oldest one I know about designing, having your users, keeping your users in mind. It's good because it's written for everyone, not only for designers. And it talks about how design can sometimes make the life more difficult. So, yeah, we have to admit that I'm thinking a lot about that, about how sometimes we create more problems by design than keep solving them. So
that's very true. And can you highlight which is the biggest mistake that we should not go into? So, because there are some things that we are not aware, but we put those on the prototype, and that is a big mistake.
In a prototype, there are no mistakes, because that's the reason we prototype. So we try to bring our ideas into something, to put it in something real, like a piece of paper, and then later on in a digital prototype. But there is nothing that I can think is a mistake. The mistake is try to expand try to cover so many problems at once. It can be like a really big mistake. Try to cover many problems in just one solution. Because usually when we do that, for example, let's say that we want to create a platform, and we know that this platform, it's meant to be a solution for a specific problem. I don't know, a community that needs to learn about something, but also we know that this community sometimes needs to schedule some activities and so on. And try to cover all those problems that you are going to face along the way at once. It's going to be very painful, and it's going to keep you away from solving the problem you need to have to be solving at when prototyping a specific part of your solution. So I'd say that try to be focused always. I'm learning that being focused on and not being very ambitious, and you need to be ambitious about providing the best solution for a specific problem, but not being very ambitious to provide all the solutions you can think that this specific person can have. So that's a thing that could be my advice in that point.
Well, that's a good advice. Yes.
And a very difficult one to put in life.
Yeah, yeah, good point. That's right. That I face it very often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for so many points that I'm kind of relating, and they're ringing bells, and I'm making exclamation marks to the notes that I put from your presentation so far. So thank you so much for the input so far. But I mentioned, and I said it without covering anything from you, that I'm really pretty green when it comes to technology. So I'm so happy that I have communicated with my group via PowerPoint so far. Woo, good for me. But so which are then? Can you please talk a bit more about the tools that are, that the most advanced guys use? You were mentioning InVision, you were mentioning Marable as tools that we can move on to. If we start with PowerPoint, what are the next steps tool-wise? Thank you.
It depends on the detail you want to provide to the solution. But if you can export the PowerPoint as in an image format, like a GP, PNG, or GPG, right? You can use then InVision. InVision is a really powerful tool because it's like providing. You can provide a touchable interface or a actionable interface, even if your solution is only based on an image. So you can set interactive areas, and you can set animations and transitions between different screens. So InVision, I'm going to add it here. InVision and Marble. Marble is great because Marble has a feature which converts any sketch. If you take a picture of your sketches, you can create interactive prototypes from them. And I used to use it a lot. I don't use it so often now, but I use it and I love it because it was wonderful. I sketched some kind of interfaces, quick interfaces for any idea, a cooking app or whatever it comes to your mind, and you can take picture of them and show it to your friends. And the interactive sketches set it from Marble. The feature is called Pop, I guess, and you can start testing those prototypes with these tools. So I could go with them. And if you want to design kind of in a more detailed approach, you can use Sketch. You can use Photoshop. I don't like to use Photoshop for prototyping because it's too difficult to learn, and I couldn't advise to use it. But if you are familiar with design tools, Photoshop would be useful as well. What else? My favorite it is Sketch because it's very useful for me, and it has everything that I need. Online tools that you can use. One of the one is having more traction now is called Figma. You can find there solutions to create an interface in a very quick way. Like you have the different components that you would need to create an interface, like input boxes, images, spaces, paragraphs, etc., and so on, buttons, and everything you would need to create like a proper digital interface. And you can go even in more detail. So Figma is a good one if you want to start prototyping in more detail.
And these are the ones that we would use if you want to start pitching to partners, if you want to start selling our idea.
If you want to start selling your idea and you want them to test it, I could use one of them for sure. If you want to provide some kind of a realistic image or feeling of what how it would be your solution, those are great ones.
How about if I'm thinking about a website for my book as well, so thank you for all the input for that. But how about I'm working with my team on a book, on a PowerPoint, and then I start talking to publishers or whoever creatives would go for the crowdfunding community. What tools do I use then?
But to show the solution, that depends on what you can try to. I'd say if you're trying to pitch your solution, you can both go with just a prototype. From my view, it can be also enough. I'll try to prototype it in a more detailed view, but from a more technical point of view. So in that case, you can use you have Proto.io. If you're prototyping something for mobile, but it's difficult to learn how to use it. There was other similar to that, but sorry, it doesn't come to my mind. But I'll send you links to everything you are asking, even for the sketches and prototypes that I think it was Charlotte that was asking for them, right?
Thanks.
I'll send you links to them.
Thank you very much. I like the part for everything that you're asking. That's a budget, but okay. No, thanks a lot.
Okay. So.
Yeah, Charlotte asked a question.
This one was good.
The last trends, exactly.
Yeah, that one is very good.
Yeah.
In terms of trends for user interface, now it's coming back the skeuomorphism, which I don't know if you remember. Apple provided some kind of a very realistic imaginary to their apps in the past, like being very detailed with shadows and that kind of things. And it seems that it's coming back, but that's a trend. In my view, trends that you have to consider is try to use the style that you think it match the best to your purpose and to the users kind of a linguistic approach in visual terms. So if you are designing for teenagers, your solution should look different than when you are designing for adults. If you are designing for adults, you try to keep it minimalistic, at least very focused on the elements that are important for them, and also you can provide some kind of classy touches and so on to provide some emotional approach as well. But I say that the use of trends, it needs to be as well related to your purpose. So the purpose of your solution. I wouldn't say that it's good to use the new trends like now we are using in my current project, we are using we are designing for kids, right? So we are using very bright colors, and that seems to be something that is also being a trend in general design. But we used to use very bright colors, like a flat design, but a very attractive in terms of emotional design and so on. So we need to use that. So we need to and kind of very vibrant situations when we have to use images. So that's in our case, but in your case it depends on what on who you are designing for. For teenagers, I think that's one of the public or the target I have never worked for, teenagers. But I'd say try to understand them, what they for example, I try to listen a lot of music that teenagers listen, to understand what kind of what mood they are in. Apart from that, usually teenagers are more in terms of are more sensible in many aspects. So in positive and negative aspects, I'm assuming that I'm not an expert, but try to understand that and to communicate in the way they appreciate your the way you communicate with them. But, usually it's always something that you have to consider. The language they use, for example, is a very common exercise to create the voice and tone of your product. The voice is something that you decide, because you're designing the solution, and you need to have some principles, and you need to set a position related to your users. So your voice is something unique that you can that you produce, but your tone is related to the people you are communicating with, and the tone has to be very has to match with the way they communicate. So I'd say set your principles and then understand how they behave, how they communicate, and what is more important for them. Yeah, things are much into fashion. Yeah, and every country is different. Yeah, but there is. I think you can pick some global trends that it could be useful in terms of new apps and so on. So I think there is a new app which is called TikTok, and kids and teenagers are using a lot. Snapchat as well. So they like. It seems that they like kind of quick jokes, being weird, that kind of thing. That's thank you for. That's even useful for me. The last one, the brainstorm, the power and purpose of the teenage brain. So yeah, that's and coming back to one of the questions I read on the platform, which was related to designing for I think women with a low level of literacy. It can be something like that. Oh, sorry. There is a...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
When designing inclusive UX, yeah, I'd say it depends on the culture. Analyze
Morocco in this case. Come on, Paco.
In this case, designing for people in Casablanca.
Yeah.
So yeah, try to understand the cultural differences.
Yeah, actually, in this case, we start with women in Morocco, but it could be any woman, but we target women that have almost they are not able they are non-literate or analphabet, so they don't know how to read or understand what they see. Mm-hmm. So it's like how design some interfaces were inclusive in the sense that if you develop an app, but people, they don't know how to read, how they will interact. So is there any criteria to develop inclusive interface?
Yeah, right now I'm designing for kids that mostly they are under 5, so they are usually from 2 years old to 4 years old, mm-hmm. And they don't know how to read. So, and the thing that we have found is very powerful is video games and animations, and interact with them, and they understand how to use it very quickly. The challenge I see in your case is that adults doesn't react the same as kids, because they feel some embarrassment when they have to interact with something that they don't know. So there is a different aspect, because I was I think 4 months ago I volunteered in Granada with people, with immigrants and elder people with very low level of literacy and digital literacy. Mm-hmm. I could see how difficult it was for them. That this is personal more than professional, but I could learn how difficult it was for them to interact with interfaces, but not only because they didn't know, but because they felt a bit embarrassed from it. So try to make it fun, to motivate them by taking actions and allow them to make a lot of mistakes without with the ability to correct them, or to help them to correct them the mistakes. And also, don't treat what they do as mistakes. That's an important. This is something that I have learned in my current project, that it's better to just provide feedback, and always in a positive way, instead of being very strong about when they are making mistakes. Another thing that I learned is that they usually, in general, either elder people and immigrants with a very low level of digital skills, and also who didn't know how to speak Spanish in our case, video in general was something very easy for them to use, because video is the video controls in digital interfaces are very similar to video controls in the physical life, and so on. So they interact very, very quickly, and they learn very quickly how to interact with them. And the last point that I think it could be important in this case is that I think very deeply if technology is needed to be in place and to be interacted by them. I mean, I don't know what you need to do, but for example, think about solution like by drawing a sketch and scanning and using AI. It could that make that easier for them, rather than interacting with an interface, with a digital interface, if the problem have a kind of urgent character. So think about that. When do you need to bring technology? Technology is great because allow us to scale very quickly and to make the same solution work in very different places. But also we need always to think, when do we need that interfaces? In what moment? What's the relationship with our users? So I'd say that those 3 points are important. But I'm envious because I really like that kind of challenges. So I'm looking forward to learn more about your project.
But thank you for the answer. Thank you very much.
Okay. Great. Any other question?
Any other questions? Otherwise, I have one. Oh, there was no. Okay, so I'll ask my questions. I want to just take us back to the early part of this session, and you talked about the personas, and I fully support the power of knowing your personas. Actually, it kind of inspired me to. We should probably, as a community, define some personas that everybody could use in their projects. So I wanted to ask you if you have any recommended links to some online resources describing personas that are useful in the space of education, and I'm specifically thinking about parents and children, probably the age that you're designing for, and also older, and also like teenagers. Like we got some questions around teenagers, and also we have several sprint projects at university level. So do you have education related personas you have come across somewhere?
The BBC, for at least for the children, the BBC has for the division of childhood and teenagers. They have a set of personas that I feel is very powerful, because they also are using kind of the style and language they would use. So, for example, for a kid of 3 years old, the picture is a picture with a kid very angry, saying again, like a very loudly, like the main description they can do is that at that age they need to do the things they love very often. So things like that, and they try to keep the language the persona would use in every single example. So this is the best one I found, but Disney has, I didn't really like much those ones, but they have done the exercise and it's good as well. I look for other examples, because I think I have saved in the latest months a quite good amount, so I'll share it with you.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, no, if you remind me that in any case, because I'll be glad to share them with you.
I'll call you every hour until 12 noon tomorrow to remind you, Paco.
Okay. That's perfect. I'll be sending you that in just an hour.
Okay. Good answer. Yeah, no, I think we as a community could all benefit from building some personas that we could all kind of draw from and learn from and refer back to in our different projects.
Yeah, that's useful as well. And another useful exercise is to create what is called proto-personas. When you don't have any information, but you have a set of assumptions, it's good to start writing them, because also it gives you an idea of what you need to learn from your users. So by using those proto-personas is not the best option if you are going deeper on your design or your designing your solution. But as a starting point, I'd say it's a good option, because it narrow down the thing I was mentioning earlier, that it narrows down what you don't know.
Yeah.
And knowing what you don't know is very powerful, because we don't know many things, but narrowing down what we don't know, it's very, very useful.
It's very useful indeed. Yes, that's a great takeaway for me from this session. And Olga just posted nice for human.
And that's a good one as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Olga.
Yeah. This is, I think, this is based on at least the style and so on. It's based in something that InVision. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, InVision made them. Yeah, that's a. So yeah, that's a good one. Anyway, I'll try to. You can also try to make them more because by using my advice is to use photographs and realistic images and more realistic details of your personas, because it allows you to be closer to and to empathize the most with your users.
Very good suggestion. Yeah.
Even if when they are not so cool, because I love the style that InVision always put in their designs, but by using not so very cool artifacts, you're kind of more, a bit closer to the real thing.
Right.
So sometimes I'm a defender of not being so cool.
Yeah. Stock images can be the worst thing, right? When you look at presentations, like, oh no, not stock images again.
Yeah, that's a point.
Yeah, and then what you end up with is, seeing the children of the speaker always, right? we all do that. Right?
This is precisely what we're doing in my project in Zen Masters right now, and we've been talking about like the author's rights and protection of the pictures of the kids, because they're like they are media children and they will be used in our presentations, but then how do we protect them? So that's another issue.
Yeah, and yeah, everything related to children rights is a sensible, is a sensitive topic.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Olga was. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just starting to wrap up.
We are
because I need to run, but
yes,
but I still have some time. It's not something like a goodbye. That's it.
No, but we are at the top of the hour, and I just want to share. There's a lot of thanks coming your way from everybody here. We really appreciate your insights and your blend of thank you, Justina.
Thank you.
We're sending you all our good karma, Paco, in appreciation of this session. This was a great learning for me, and I'm sure very useful for all of us. So thank you very much for this, and any link that comes to mind during the night when you receive my feel free to send them.
I'll share it.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you through WhatsApp.
Yeah. Wonderful. Paco, and you're getting some good sun from Casablanca and positive vibes.
Nice.
And some chill wind from Copenhagen, where the summer is not really here yet.
Not yet, but you will be there. We'll be there soon.
But warm feelings for sure.
Thank you. It has been a really good time.
It has been fun and a great learning experience. So Paco, thank you so much for your time and your
Thank you all, and I'll share with you the links I know I owe you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye everybody.
Good night. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.